were world champions. Like, I don't even know how you put that on. That's just like pretty big, right?
In actuality, it goes back to some of the silver medals. In 2013, we won a silver medal.
Yeah.
It was a group of players. Some of them are on the national team now that had kind of a why not us attitude.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
I'm a big video guy, like video clips, and try to correlate to what you're going through at this point in time. And I don't know if you recall the movie Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and they're being chased by this posse. And they didn't know who was chasing them, and they kept going, "Who are those guys?" I was telling the players, that's probably what these other countries are saying right now, because USA had never won a medal. Mm-hmm. And to a large degree, they were never really that competitive. And so I was just kind of going, they're probably saying to you guys, who are those guys? They're winning matches. They're not supposed to be.
This is the Leave It Better podcast, powered by the Side Out Foundation. Here's your host, Hall of Fame coach, Janice Kruger.
Today, we have the privilege of speaking to and with Jim Stone, a true giant in the volleyball coaching world. From his 27-year tenure as the head coach at the Ohio State University to leading the USA Girls Youth National Team to the 2019 FIVB U18 World Championship, Jim has demonstrated exceptional leadership and volleyball acumen at every level. As founder of Jim Stone Consulting, he continues to share his wealth of knowledge accumulated over the 4 decades in coaching. Jim, welcome to the show.
Yeah, the people who are listening don't know of the challenges we had putting this together. So I'm glad to be here, and thank you for the nice introduction.
You bet. There's more. Hall of Fame inductee at the Ohio University in 2012, many Big Ten Coach of the Year honors. And I think there's one undefeated season that I remember, 1991. And did you play in Richmond that year? Was that Final Four in Richmond?
In 91, no, it was Austin was 94. 91 was at UCLA.
UCLA. Okay.
You didn't tell me I was going to have to think here.
I know. Well, anyhow, how are you?
I'm doing marvelous. Thank you. And I appreciate the invite to be on the show.
Yeah. Well, we're excited to have you on. I mean, honestly, everybody in our foundation is just so excited that you're here and are big fans of all the work that you do and your efforts in helping move the sport of volleyball and coaching and all that along. Yeah.
Well, as the movie director and actor Clint Eastwood said, you got to have a reason to get out of bed every day. So at my senior years, that's my reason. So, but in all honesty, it's a kind of a passion, and I enjoy doing it. I enjoy reading, gathering information from people that are smarter than me. So it's I hope it's resonating with at least a portion of the volleyball community.
Yeah. There hasn't been one time that I'm just not in awe of your ability to take information from other sources and sort of apply it in or even within our sources and explain it in a way that I get really easily. And that's a skill, because sometimes people will tell you things and you have no idea what they're talking about, but you do make it very clear.
Well, I mean, one of the, first of all, thank you very much. I live on autocorrect, and I use Grammarly a lot too. If I relied on my own writing skills, it wouldn't be pretty.
Well, there's lots of things that are helpful these days, and glad you know how to use those. Okay, let's just get started. The couple things I like to do in our podcast is just, how'd you get into volleyball? Number one, like way back when. Can you remember that far?
Well, yeah, it's getting harder every year. But it's kind of a right place, right time. I was a junior college basketball player playing for my father, who was the basketball coach at Kellogg Community College in Battle Creek, Michigan.
Okay.
And it happened to be the same place that Mick Haley was an instructor. And actually, my father hired Mick within the physical education department there at Kellogg. And while I was playing basketball, Mick was in the formative stages of starting a men's club volleyball team at Kellogg. And at that point, they weren't in the MIVA, which has Ohio State and Ball State and all the traditional powerhouses in men's volleyball. It was just a club. A lot of my friends were playing, and it seemed like fun, so I started playing, just you pick up triples and doubles and whatever, much to the chagrin of my father, who was the basketball coach at that time, saying you should be practicing basketball. And actually, after the 2 years at Kellogg, I transferred down to Ball State to play basketball. And I could see kind of the writing on the wall. I mean, the coach that recruited me to Ball State, between the time I decided to go there and the following academic year, was let go by the athletic department. Mm. And the new coach wasn't quite as excited about my level of play. So, the only thing I could do, I'm not that tall in basketball terms. Well, now in volleyball terms, I'm not that tall either, but, I'm 6 foot and the only thing I could do is shoot from the outside. And he ran an offense where the guards went underneath a lot. And, I was getting elbows on top of my head and going, there's not future in this. So I decided to forego that component of my athletic career. And I spent, a week or so not doing anything, just going to class and coming back to the dorm. And I'm going, this isn't good. So a lot of my friends were playing volleyball at Ball State for Don Shondell. And I just went in, hey, can I kind of get involved? And, so I played 3 years at Ball State. So that was kind of my initiation. And then at that time, this was like 75, I graduated. Mick and Stu McDowell. I don't know if you're familiar with Stu. He's an icon.
He is.
Stu was at Graceland College in Iowa. And Mick was still operating out of Kellogg in Michigan. And between the two of them, there was this network of camps all over the Midwest. And this is before universities really got into the camp business. You know, so Stu had a great thing going on, and he would bring coaches in, and Mick had a great thing going on, and he would bring and it was a June to August thing.
Yeah.
We were like a band of gypsies just kind of floating around the Midwest. But it was just a unbelievable learning experience. I mean, I do recall we were at Western Michigan University towards the end of the summer, and I'm on a court with a group of 14 kids. And on one side was Doug Beal running a practice, and on the other side was Terry Liskevich, and Carl McGowan was over there. And it was just a living, breathing volleyball laboratory, because you'd sit there at lunch and they'd be kicking around their thoughts and ideas, and all of those young guys just sit there, first of all, in awe, and you're just sponges. You just picked it up. And then I got my first job out at the University of Wyoming. And actually, my first job was I was an instructor within the education department. And while I was doing that, I helped out with the volleyball program. And the coach at that time said, well, why don't you become the full-time coach, and I'll become the women's administrator. So again, right place, right time. And
who was the coach?
If you recall, it was Mary Ellen Cloniger.
Okay.
who has since passed away, but she gave me my start, and I stayed there for 3 seasons, and then went to Ohio State for 27 and called it a college career.
Yeah. Well, it's funny when you're talking about Graceland. I used to go there every summer to train with the University of Nebraska volleyball team.
Okay.
Before they had anything, and the names you're talking about there. And I always tried to figure out your guys' connection. And I didn't know to the full extent, but I'm learning more as I talk to all of you about that time, because I felt like if you were a young person within those surroundings, you truly were getting like a master's degree in coaching volleyball, or at least being introduced to a lot.
For sure. And like I said, I'd be on the court and there'd be all these icons surrounding me, and I would look at what they're doing. I go, okay, let's do that.
Right.
So I was a great copier at that time in my career.
Yeah, that was something I was good at too. I like some of these things. We have some similarities here.
Well, it's really, excuse my interruption, but it's really, it's unfortunate that those types of experiences are harder to come by now. So for the younger coach, their breadth of exposure to different ways of doing things is really limited. I mean, they graduate from college, so they have this one background, and maybe they go and be a volunteer someplace, so they get another background, and then maybe they become an assistant, and but they really have only worked with 2 or 3 people, and we were all over the map in terms of people we were working with and in communicating with and learning from. So I consider myself extremely fortunate to be in that environment.
Yeah. It sounds like a really great time. Let's talk just a little bit about the access where coaches are today. And, if I've learned anything just recently, after listening to a lot of podcasts and talking to a lot of you all, when I was coaching, I didn't get connected enough to peers, where I see sometimes now there are groups that do use that. But you're sort of feeling like that's not happening. Is that happening?
To a large degree, it's not happening organically. I think people can go to some clinics, and like back then, there really weren't any coaching clinics per se back then. I mean, it's almost 50 years ago now. When I look at the men's collegiate coaches, because at Ohio State, men's volleyball is a varsity sport, and so I'm somewhat familiar with just kind of the atmosphere inside of their coaching community. Yeah. And I thought it was a way, way, way more open exchange of ideas type of atmosphere within the men's coaches. And I don't, because their priorities was legitimately growing the game. If I can help you become better, then we'll both be better, and more guys will play. And their motivations were, they're all competitive and they want to win, and there's no question about that. But they also want to have as many good teams as possible. So it was just kind of a camaraderie there that at times is missing in the women's game. It's more of a competitive, and if I know something, I'm not going to tell you about it because then you might beat me with it. And it's a little bit different atmosphere than I think what the guys are involved in.
Do you think it's still there? Do you think that's still the case?
For the women?
With women.
Yeah. Boy, I'm probably a bad person to ask because I've been kind of out of the game for a while. Yeah, I'll plead the fifth on that one.
Okay, that's fine. I don't know either. I've been out for 20 some years too. So let's talk a little bit about your career spanned over collegiate, international, and club levels. And how diverse was that? And did it change the way you think about the game? Was there any one part of that those many levels that really changed how you coached volleyball or influenced how you coached volleyball?
Without question, yes. And I think the people that impacted me the most, well, the time period that impacted me the most was when I left Ohio State and I was asked by USA Volleyball to coach their youth team or 18 and under team. And I do recall our first world championship where, I was relatively successful at Ohio State and kind of thought I knew what I was doing. And we took a pretty representative group to the World Championship and just got shellacked, and I'm going,
hello.
Yeah, that was a different reality. And we had okay players, but it was just a different atmosphere in terms of competitiveness. I mean, these other countries, they train year round for this one event, and they are into it. And in actuality, the first thing I noticed is their national anthems. Like when pre-match national anthem, I looked over at these countries and they were just belting out the national anthem like this. We are ready to go here. And the USA kids, half of them, I don't think, knew the words.
Oh, dear.
They kind of mumbled and shifted. So in the ensuing World Championships, I'm going, hey, we may lose every match, but we're going to know the words to the national anthem. That is the first competition we're going to win at these things. But over the course of the 5 World Championships I was in, I learned so much. And I go back to the example I used with the men's coaches here in the States. I think internationally the coaches were very willing to share. And, I came to watch their practices and we'd talk and again, at that point, USA Volleyball would, during the school year, they'd send a team over to Italy for a week just to train. So you just had to sit down and talk with other coaches. And so kind of the process of all those, that 10-year period, I just learned so much without right or wrong being a component. It's just a different way, different methods, different priorities, different ways to run practices. And some you go, God, this is great. And some of you just kind of go, I don't think so. But it just opened my eyes to, there's, as the saying goes, there's lots of roads that lead to Chicago.
Yeah.
And I think at times if I was going to be critical of the way we do it, we tend to get these blinders on and this is how I do it. This is my way, or this is the right way. And if somebody's not doing it your way, well, they're doing it wrong instead of doing it differently. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, if you look at the various countries that we were exposed to at the World Championships, there's a lot of differently going on, different tactics, different systems, different training priorities. So that really just impacted me a lot. And the coaches that have impacted me the most have probably came from the international background. Doug Beal, Terry Liskevich, Mick Haley, Carl McGowan kind of all came from this world perspective of things. And you kind of keep throwing the Post-its against the wall and some of them will stick. And so that's probably what impacted me more than anything else is just that international experience. And then lately, just hopefully not going on too much here, lately I've just kind of gotten into how can we as a coaching community in this country do more to help our kids get better, more in terms of how can we run practices better? How do players learn the best? Mm-hmm. And there's still different ways to go about it. And I in the course of some of the writings that you alluded to earlier that I do, I try really hard not to say this is the right way. It's just, this is a way. or this is a thought, and hopefully there's some mental stimulation that if I can, allow coaches to pause and think, then that's my motivation right now.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that you do for me is when you talk about the growth mindset and you're talking about, be present, live in intention, and it makes a difference. And I see you in that state of mind, I think. That's how you wake up in the morning, maybe. I'm not sure. And maybe it's not as clear, but I get to see all the real clear stuff that's out there. But your writings and your work make me feel that for sure. Like, be present and, live on intention. Like, what's your intention here? And that's really important.
Well, I try really hard to be curious. And if I were to walk into a gym today, I would have my way. Here's kind of sort of what I do, but similar to when I was just walking out of Ball State and Doug Beal was beside me on the other court. If I look at what's going on around and go, man, I'm going to try this different way, and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but I'm going to try it. So hopefully I never lose that kind of perspective of being willing to try new things. I know when you start getting older, like Lord knows I am, you start, this is my way, god dang it.
I'm not sure you're going there.
I'll try to dig my heels in and avoid that.
Yeah. Speaking of that, like you talked about your international stuff and the FIVB and the silver medals for the U18. There were 2 silver and then 19, you got your gold medal. And somewhere I think I read where it was like, that's one of your most favorite memories. Like, you were world champion. Like, I don't even know how you put that on. That's just like pretty big, right?
Yeah, and I, especially happy for the players that accomplished that. But in actuality, it goes back to some of the silver medals. And in 2013, we won a silver medal.
Yeah,
it was a group of players. Some of them are on the national team now that had kind of a "why not us" attitude. Mm-hmm. Mm. In fact, in some of our meetings in the hotel, I'm a big video guy, like video clips, and try to correlate to what you're going through at this point in time. And I don't know if you recall the movie Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and they're being chased by this posse. They didn't know who was chasing them, and they kept going, "Who are those guys?" They didn't know who they were, and they would stop, and they were still being chased, and like, "Who are those guys?" And I was telling the players, that's probably what these other countries are saying right now, because USA had never won a medal, and to a large degree, they were never really that competitive. And so I was just kind of going, they're probably saying to you guys, "Who are those guys?" They're winning matches. They're not supposed to be.
Was that under the Juice article? I just watched that, and I truly enjoyed seeing that. Who are they? Who are those guys?
Yeah, but it was a testament to that group of players that they weren't willing to put themselves into a box where, well, we've never won before here, and we'll just kind of keep doing what USA does. And they kind of had this, whatever spirit of adventure. We're going to kind of test the limits here, So we took second in 13 and 15, and then in 19 we were actually able to crack through the barrier and win the world championship.
Yeah. I have to ask, who were some of those players in the 13 and 15 era?
Jordan Poulter was our setter.
Ah, yes.
Haley Hodson was an attacker. Fecky, that went to Nebraska, was the middle. Adriana Fitzmaurice was on the floor a lot. Kenzie, I'm drawing a blank. She's libero for Nebraska.
Okay.
Sauer was a back row player. Danielle Contino, who that was kind of her first exposure to international volleyball, but she's had a great professional career. It was a good group of players that had good talent physically, but I think their strength, like I mentioned earlier, their strength was they wouldn't put barriers on themselves. And since they had such a great collegiate and some of them professional and national team career, my guess is they're doing the same thing now. They're still adventurous, and how good can they or how good can we get?
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, those are fun things to remember.
Oh, for sure. Let's
talk here a little bit more. Analytical approach. You mentioned a passion sometimes here for computer analysis, and we had our own little analysis here at the beginning of this today. But
that I didn't help at all with.
So you talked about the passion of computerized analysis of skills and seeing players, when you show this to them, kind of light up and really kind of find a easy way to maybe change their journey or remarkably change their progress. Can you talk a little bit about how's technology changed your coaching, and what analytical tools did you find most valuable, especially for the players as they were progressing and learning?
I really got into video kind of my last couple of years at Ohio State. So that was 2005, 4 in there someplace. And I remember sitting with Danielle Meyer, who was a wonderful player. And we were looking at some mechanical part of her game. And it was just from her perspective, she just kind of goes, I had no idea I did that. And I think that statement's probably true with 90% of the players out there. Mm-hmm. They play, and they're good kids, and a lot of them are good players, but they really don't know what they're doing other than relying on physical talent. And I think video feedback is really underutilized as a learning tool.
Still.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I walk into the clubs here in Colorado, and you hardly ever see cameras rolling. And in my, I mean, you do it. I think colleges use it a lot for sure. Clubs, not as much. But from my perspective, club volleyball is the most important thing we got going. You know, that's our future, and those are the young kids coming up. And you know, we play a lot, but I'm not sure we do the job of instruction that coaches should be doing at the younger levels. Mm-hmm. We tend to we compete more than we learn.
It's a little bit of a philosophy of who gets to coach those kids, and a lot of times in the club scenario situation, they'll drop somebody on the younger kids that maybe is not quite as polished yet. To me, that's like the best group. Like, you can get so far by teaching movements and just some of the basic skills at that level.
They're not predisposed by habits.
You
know, they're sponges. And but as you know, you've coached, once a habit's there, boy, sometimes it's easier to recruit a different player than it is to break a bad habit. And but you're right. And I understand the demographics of it in terms of the club directors have all these teams, and we don't have enough experienced coaches. So there is kind of a degradation of experience from the coaching perspective for these young players. We tend to a large degree, put our most experienced or most qualified coaches with the older players. And I get that as well. You know, but it's like, you get the problem now. What can we do in terms of, you know, finding a way where we can bring the bottom up kind of the whole rising tide will raise everybody. So, yeah, if there can be a real push from our national office, for example, what can we do to educate all the club coaches? Is there a way that we can get out and about and really try to interact more and, just the whole educational process? I mean, we're dealing with lots of numbers and there's some logistical challenges and all that stuff. And I get it all. But I think getting back to our original thing, I think video is a way to do that. And that way, if the coach is allowing the players to, one, know what they're looking for, and two, be able to watch themselves and do kind of some self-coaching.
Yeah.
That's the thing I say all the time now if I'm working with players is, what did you see? What are you seeing out there that made you hit that shot? Get the gerbil moving faster on the wheel, on the mental wheel. I think that would help out quite a bit.
Yeah. I know one of the fixes also is, I know there's a couple clubs where the philosophy it's all encompassed from top to bottom and taught to coaches, and they're take it pretty seriously, and they end up doing a really nice job in those scenarios. But it takes time. It takes people to be able to buy into that.
Yeah, I like I mentioned earlier, I certainly understand the dilemma that club directors are in. But if I were in that role right now, I would do everything I could to have that kind of a top down, where you're helping that inexperienced coach out, where they don't have to necessarily plan the practice. This other coach who's more experienced is planning the practice. Now I just have to learn how to implement it, what kind of feedback we're looking for, what are the 2 or 3 things that we're emphasizing on a given night. So you're developing this coaching skill set, and then maybe in a couple of years, the inexperienced coach is now ready to take charge of their thing and move forward in a positive direction, rather than having this we've got 30 teams and it's every man for themselves.
Yeah. I like it when it's a little more structured. The whole product coming out of any of those clubs just is better, I think. The skill level of the players, the understanding of the game, because it's addressed from the top to the bottom.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So you're dealing with the technical aspects and the tactics and teaching skills. The other big thing right now is that team culture, building the team culture. What are some things that you have done in establishing something like that? And not to get into too many details, but, the importance of that is pretty massive, because you got to have everybody rowing in the same direction, all on the same bus, and nobody taking any exit ramps to get out of there. But for the building of a really solid culture, what are some important key things that you think about?
It's interesting because a year or two ago, I was talking with Kathy DeBoer, who at that time was just in the process of leaving the AVCA. And she said at the convention, the culture topic was like the most popular thing. I mean, there's a real hunger out there on the part of coaches to what your question just was. How can we build this culture? And I don't think there's a singular right answer to that. I think a couple thoughts. One is the coach has to be really clear what kind of culture they want. I mean, what direction are we going without there being a right or wrong direction?
Right.
But the coach has to be able to articulate and have in their mind, this is what I want. And if that's in place, there's going to be some parameters in terms of whatever's going on has to fit into this culture that I want. And And that could be different things for different teams. It doesn't matter as long as the coach has a direction that they want things to go. And just showing up at tournaments and playing, well, that's not a culture. That's an activity. So the coach has to have a clear delineation of what they want, and then have some level of a plan how to get there, and then not be afraid to really to make demands on the players that they have to abide by this thing that we're doing. So I see, to me, the good clubs, the good in parentheses, the clubs that are successful, the Muncianas of the world, the Kivas, these TAVs, they've been around a long time. It's kind of an inbreeding culture, which makes it easier on the coach for sure, but they've done the hard work already. So now it just kind of replicates itself year after year. But getting that culture started is the challenge, so if the coach can do some real introspective thought about what do I want my product to be like 5 months from now when the season is over, and how am I going to implement that stuff, and what demands am I willing to make on the players, with the idea of, this may not end well, but I'm going to be pretty, and this is where we're going, either get on the bus or not. And I think it's hard because it's hard for coaches now at every level to make those demands. It's, there's a lot of involvement from outside people, and it's a challenge.
Yeah. There are so many performance coaches. You have your assistant coaches, you have your academic support people, you have in a collegiate setting. And even in some of the clubs, they have a lot of this as well. But the ability to get that entire community all understanding and buying in is the beauty. One example that I really like to use is John Cook at Nebraska. He said it was something that he has put a lot of time into. And for him, the interesting part is for him to, what was he doing? TikTok. He had to kind of allow himself to really, let it go and try something very new and in the culture that the kids are in to understand.
One of my favorite people, and we all have people that are behind the scenes but really impact you as a coach. Well, Dr. Kate Riffey, who I think would be a wonderful guest for your podcast, she was an academic advisor at Ohio State University. She has a great perspective on that in terms of there has to be boundaries for both players and coaches. Now, that could be behavior boundaries. It could be practice boundaries. And it's, what are your boundaries? What can players do, like in this sandbox here, but they can't go over the side. They got to stay inside of the sandbox. And the same thing goes for coaches. If you're going to ask your players to be organized on time and show up and be prepared, then you got to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. The football coach at Ohio State for a few years while I was there, Urban Meyer, who's a very, very successful coach. He talked about, he would front load practices. Here's what you're going to be responsible for. And then he would have the whole on edge learning environment where the lineman would come in before practice and go, okay, what was on the video that I sent you? What are the 3 things we're doing today? What defense are we going to be in when it's 3rd down and long when we're playing University of Illinois? He would put some pressure on the player. Hey, you got to know this stuff. Mm-hmm. So that he kind of ratcheted up the whole level of intensity of what we do. And to a degree, we should be doing the same thing with our club kids. You know, what are the three things that are most important when we're receiving serve? And kids should know the answer. Because you've given them the answer. Now they have to ingest that, and I think the more you do that, you're setting a culture for your team. You're responsible for things. There's some level of accountability for knowing information, and that's where I have a hard time with club age players just playing so much.
Oh yeah.
Without any accountability for playing the game well. I mean, their only feedback is the scoreboard, and it's like, nah, there's too many variables in that for that to be your only feedback. So, okay, I got off topic, but
no, but I love it.
Kate Riffey at Ohio State was great at, coaches and players have to know boundaries. Where are we going? What will that entail in terms of effort and in teamwork and all those things. So anyway.
Well, we'll have to get that information from you.
She'll probably hate me for bringing her name up.
Well, she can decline. Jim, your background and your parents being teachers, and I think I read something and I got to love this. It was your mom was Irish Catholic, and she was from the south side of Chicago. And so now we have a pope that was from there. But, when I read about understanding hard work and really kind of demanding it, and there was one little example you shared on your website about living in Michigan. I think you were living in Michigan. And it might have been some snow on the ground, and you had a shovel, and you get out there and shovel it. And she goes, and when you're done, let's just go ahead and shoot some baskets so you make up for that stuff you were missing in the game. I got a big kick out of that.
As I mentioned in that piece, both her and my father, I mean, they came out of the Depression area. The hard work was part of the deal. I mean, you didn't even think twice about it. So she wasn't afraid to pass that on. But I do remember that because I was just sitting on my butt watching TV, and all those shots you missed last night in the game, shovel up the driveway and go to work, shoot some baskets. So, so I mean, you never want to compare. Every era is different, but I think in general, I think the younger players that we have now are good kids. I think they want to improve. They want to get better. Mm-hmm. So if the coaches can establish, some boundaries, here's what it's going to take, and then follow through with their own effort, I think there's a receptive audience there. I mean, we tend to make disparaging comments about attention span and kids don't want to work anymore. And I just don't agree with that. I think they do if they feel they're going to get better by going down this path that you're constructing for them. I do recall a quote by Jerry Seinfeld. He's talking about kids get bored nowadays, and he just kind of goes, there is no such thing as boredom. It's just the quality of what they're watching. And I tend to think, I'm not 100% sure on this, but we tend to use the term burnout. Kids get burned out, and I tend to believe it's not burnout. They're getting bored.
Yeah.
And I think in general, if players feel that they're on this path going up, and they're getting better and they're competing and they're having some success, they're not going to get burned out.
Yeah, as a coach, you kind of have to stay a step ahead, even in your drills. Like, it cannot be going slow. We got to move this thing along. And as you understand it, then let's go.
You got to bring the juice every day.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, that was one of the favorite things that I always liked, is just pushing them. And I wasn't even the one that could push the most. I had an assistant coach that really could be the burr under the saddle. And oh my God, here's a tissue box. I mean, it's like, and they were like, no, I'm going to get this done. But they would accept the challenge. But as coaches, we definitely have to stay in that spot where you're skilled enough, trained enough, and then can do that, pass it on to your players.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard for the coach. I mean, as hard as it, the challenges you want to put out for your players, that would be perceived as hard. It's also hard for the coach. It'd be much easier to just be one of the guys, and pat everybody on the back. But, you've been in the coaching world. You can do that, but the results probably aren't going to be what you want.
People are not as happy, I don't believe.
Any
part of it.
in the long run, in the short run, it's like, well, this is easy, but in the long run, easy's not what they want for most players.
Yeah. I'm going to step into something here that I found that you did in 2017, almost 2018. It was December. And you had 10 things I learned during your career. Do you remember this?
I remember writing it, but I don't know what the 10 things were.
Okay. All right. So embrace technology. It will benefit your players and allows the coach to be a better teacher. Still holds true, and it's something we talked about already today.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Having fun and working hard are not mutually exclusive. One doesn't have to be the crazy man that I was as a younger coach. Let's have a little explanation on that.
I know what it is. We all evolve, right?
Yeah.
No, I think we all look back in our coaching careers and just kind of go, whoa, I was kind of out of control there. And coaches make mistakes. And, I've made more than my share. But I think one of the mistakes that I made is that, in the spirit of, pushing and wanting to win, I would be, pretty critical. And it's like, I'll go back to a Kate Riffey thing, critique, but don't criticize.
Yeah.
And I was more of a criticizer. I'd like to think I evolved from that point. And, I think you can challenge the kids and you work hard, but hopefully you've developed an atmosphere where there's a fun component as well.
Yeah. And
I think to a degree it's the coach's personality. I mean, you tell the players being good is hard work. And if it wasn't hard work, there'd be more good players. So it's hard. So there's got to be some empathy there for the work that the players are going through. So you have to kind of be that balancer where you challenge, but you also pat them on the back.
Sometimes that works really well with a head coach and assistant coach because you can kind of balance each other a little bit in that scenario and very valuable connection and partnership. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember one assistant coach, I'll not mention her name, but she was great at being that balance when I was the one that was, let's go. And, she said she walked over to a player that was having a rough day and she says, hey, just make it through the day. That's all he's trying to do. Both of you just make it through the day.
Love the honesty, right? I mean, and it's, perfect. Okay. The current substitution rule in college, and I don't even know what it is now. Is it still 15 subs 15, or 12? Yeah. 15. Has not helped the game. The continuous substitutions make any rhythm to the game impossible to achieve and shortchange the skill of development of players. And you talked about this just in terms of we put people in a box a little too early, like you're tall, you're going to do this, and you're short, you're going to do this, or whatever that is.
I think 15 subs is ridiculous. I think it, as ridiculous as it is in college, even with the younger ages, I think it's 12 for club volleyball. Because you never know with a 14-year-old if they're going to grow or not.
Yeah.
And you never know who's going to have a passion for the game that's going to get larger every year or wane as time goes on. You don't know. And I had a dad tell me one time that his daughter was just the prototype middle. I mean, tall and fast and athletic. And as a college coach, she's a middle. He goes, no, she doesn't want to play middle because she wants to play 6 rotations. Now, this is at the club level.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas middles automatically came out. She goes, why would she just want to play half the game? And I'm just like going, that's a sad state of affairs we've developed here.
Yeah.
Kids are making life choices based on the rules. I hate bringing these athletic players that can score out of the back row. I remember why, and I won't mention the team, but I was watching them, and this girl comes out of the back row and just crushes the ball. And I'm going, whoa. I mean, I was watching on television. That was impressive. And the next point she goes off the court for a back row sub. And I'm going, wait a minute. I just saw the most exciting play in the last 3 weeks, and you're taking her off the court. Yeah, so I don't know. I wish we were, internationally it's 6. I wish we'd go maybe halfway between, get 8 or 9. And I also think by doing that, you're going to challenge the coaches more. You're going to challenge the coaches to teach the big kids how to play defense and pass, at least at some level of proficiency that, merits them staying on the floor for 6 rotations. And I think there's some strategy things. Okay, do I sub now, or, I got fewer subs to work with, so I think it would challenge the coaches to be more strategic in how they teach and how they, how their game management unfolds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You may have mentioned somewhere in a blog post about Chuck Irby and a group of athletes that played for him back then, like Sue Woodstraw.
Yeah. Debbie Brown.
Debbie Green. Yeah, Debbie Green. Yeah. And just how it was so exciting to see them be able to play the whole game. Like they were just more involved all around kind of play.
Yeah. Chuck is a Hall of Fame coach, and he had a bunch of 6-foot kids that he worked with them in all 6 positions. Then the offense they ran was fun. He had players going all over the place and hitting hard. And that's when I was just getting out of college going, but it opened my eyes to what's possible.
Mm-hmm.
That impacted me in terms of what are the possibilities out there if you really go at it 100 miles an hour. And I think there's no reason to think that a 15-year-old isn't going to have that same mindset. If you expose them to what they're capable of doing, how exciting that would be for them.
Chuck Irby came to, when I was in Nebraska, Omaha, and he came to do a coach's clinic there. And I had stolen that offense that he had and had my kids running it. And it was a very good year for us using all of the stuff. I just copied it basically, but I had the people. And he came in and he put them out on the floor, and they started doing stuff. And he was like,
that looks like us.
Where'd you? Yeah. It was identical. It was such a funny thing to see him. But yeah, he was pretty creative. He wasn't a volleyball player himself initially, right? And so some of his teaching or his education in the process was a little bit different.
But to me, the takeaway, whether it's one of Chuck's teams or any team, when you have players that are multi-skilled, then as a coach, you can really let your creative juices flow. I always use analogies with other sports, and I'm not a huge NFL fan, but I'll watch occasionally. And back when Chip Kelly was a head coach for somebody, I think Philadelphia, and he wanted players that can throw and run and catch offensively. Because if they could do all three of these things, the defense never really knows what they're going to do. Take that into volleyball, and if we could have players that could, pass and hit from a myriad of positions, they're not locked into, well, I'm a left side.
I'm a hitter, right? That's what you want, just one hitter.
Yeah. I'm a right side. So coaches need to, deal with whatever their tools are. But I'm sitting there going, because you see on more than one team, a right side player, right side, and they're in rotation one. So they're receiving left front, and they do this convoluted pass pattern to travel 30 feet so they could hit from right side. And I'm just like, wouldn't it be easier to teach them how to hit left side? I mean, it's not that much different.
Yeah. That might be the new thing. Yeah. Future vision. Given your experience at every level, where do you see volleyball coaching and player development heading in the next decade?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I'm not sure what my answer is.
Okay. All right.
Because especially at the collegiate level, it's changing so fast in terms of just the dynamics and kids, they're here and then they're over there. And, I'm going to go to this school because they're paying me more. And is that going to trickle down into the club world? I don't know. I mean, there's more unknowns than knowns right now. If we go back to looking at Chuck Irby's group, that group of kids stayed together for
they did
quite a few years. Then they matriculated up to the national team and did cool things with the national team. And I think it's challenging right now as a collegiate coach, because I think coaches have to have some level of vision in terms of, okay, here's where we're at. Here's where I want to be next year and the year after. But it's almost like it's hard to have a vision when you don't even know who's going to be there.
Well, you know what? Your vision has to change to probably fit with that. It's going to be all new next year.
It's a 3-month vision.
Right. It's short-lived.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just going to be interesting. And I'm worried about with the financial component of Division I athletics now, what's going to happen to all the mid-majors?
Yeah.
Because right now our strength is you have a lot of teams and a lot of athletes all over the place. Is that just going to be consolidated into a smaller group of schools? And then the mid-majors, they can't afford it. What are we going to do here? So I'm really concerned about the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Lots of questions and not many answers yet. I want to say something about your book, about your consulting business. I want you to talk about that if you'd like. You have Jim Stone Consulting, and you also have this amazing website that has blogs, has posts, analysis of video on there, and you started a new newsletter that's called Three Ideas. Okay.
My 3 Ideas newsletter.
Yeah. It's fun. And to me, if a coach, you kind of want to be inspired, learn something new, be in that growth mindset, you should check this stuff out. So if you'd like, let's do a little promotion for what you got, Jim, because I think it's just super valuable. And if you are truly into coaching and bettering yourself and those that you get to teach and work with, I find it really stimulating.
Okay, well, let's do a trade. I'll talk a little bit about what I do, but then I also want to talk a little bit about the Side Out Foundation. Jim Stone Consulting, I tried to come up with a name little bit sexier than that, but like the guy who's helping me design my website, just go keep it simple. So it's Jim Stone Consulting, and all I try to do is kick out information. Like I said, if I really want to get into a topic, I'll do some level of blog posting, and I try not to make it an opinion piece. I try to do some level of senior citizen research and have some incorporate research into whatever topic I'm working on. So I try to do that. I did probably about 4 years old now. I did an ebook with kind of a video nexus in terms of I didn't want to just write. And I try to go, okay, here's what this video pertains to, and here are the key aspects of it. And I kind of use the foundation of a checklist in terms of when it comes to forearm passing. Okay, what are the, 5 to 10 things that are critical in this skill? So as a coach, you can start checking the list in terms of, hey, footwork's great, platform management, not so great. And I tried to give visual models of what I perceive to be, this is something that if your kids copy this, you're on the right track. So that's available on my website. And like I said, it's an ebook because there is so much video entailed in it. Now as I look at it, I want to do a rewrite, and because I was like, it's like a first attempt at anything. It's you look back at it and go, that wasn't very good. So I might do a second edition of that. It
gets the benefit of your learning, and it's just like, that's great.
And then I do a 3 ideas newsletter, and again, I try not to necessarily attach my personal opinion, but 3 things on a weekly basis that I'll send out to people on the mailing list. And you can get on the mailing list via my website, jimstoneconsulting.com. And just 3 ideas. Go, hey, maybe have you thought of trying this in practice? And it seems to be resonating. I get people writing back and, I like this and whatever. I've maintained my interest in video. And one of the things I'm considering now is, as you looking ahead to fall matches, is to take a match and just do some sort of, why did this team win? Part of it is statistics. Part of it is the video component that maybe led to that statistic. What this team do well, what this team didn't do well, which precipitated, a struggle, so that's kind of the percolating idea. It's just content that hopefully it appeals to coaches of all levels. It's not just for the college coach, but it's also not just for the 14 and under coach. Just try to, get a hodgepodge of information floating around that might have different audiences.
I don't have it. I need to get it because I want to know what's in there. Or should I wait for the revision? Just kidding.
I'll send you a link for the free publicity you've been so gracious with.
So I know recently, I'm going to ask you this, and we can discuss it or not discuss it. It's up to you. That your sister was diagnosed with breast cancer. Are you okay to talk about that?
Yeah, I'm not going to go too deep. It's her deal, but it became it hit me how important it is the support network of anybody going through that challenge, because it's scary stuff, and you never really know your status, and especially when it's just first diagnosis, it kind of hits you in the face, and you take a step back. But she's going through the protocol. Every protocol is a little bit different, and she's doing what they feel is the most appropriate to her and in her situation. Hopefully they caught it early, and but it's still it's a mental impact. Mm-hmm. It's an obvious physical impact. I mean, the medication she's on, she gets tired, and there's a ripple effect. No matter what goes on, there's a ripple effect, and I think those ripple effects are hard. It's like the enemy that you don't see sometimes. So, but yeah, it seemingly she's doing well, and her
glad to hear that
attitude's good, and she's fighting the fight.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for sharing that. I just want to say to you, I think that, the Side Out Foundation, I've been a part of this foundation for a little over 20 years. And when I left college coaching, it was such a nice, easy transition to stay connected to my friends. And I do see the volleyball community as a very supporting structure, and just like it stays there. I mean, I've known you now for many, many years. For volleyball to be the reason that we're able to do Dig Pink events and raise funds and spread the word about what we actually do here at the foundation to help those with metastatic breast cancer, I just am proud, really, of the sport to take this on. And it's always been one of those things where we believe this is something that the volleyball community can own. And we do right now because of how it's supported with them by raising funds. You got a chance to meet Katie, I think, in Colorado not too long ago. And so we have young staff, and I think that they're really shedding some great light and putting some good energy out there and trying to help everybody understand what it is that we're doing. And, just bottom line, I guess, about the Side Out Foundation is that we help people first, and then we do our research. And that's kind of unusual. And it's also unusual and unique that we do our own research. We have our own scientists and do our own clinical trial. And so we're in complete control, and the money, we know exactly what it's getting us and what we're doing. The metastatic community can reach out to us, and we can help them know exactly what treatment options they should be on if they find themselves in that stage of the disease. And that's in the stage disease, but there's so much going on right now that is so innovative, and improvements that one of the folks that we work with, he goes, if you're going to have cancer, this is the best time to have it. So that's like, we're going to go upside on that. And as you said, there are so many things you experience when that's not been a part of your life before, to have cancer in your family.
It's kind of, the Lord speaks in strange ways, because I went to the dermatologist just last week, and just an annual screening. Mm-hmm. Didn't think much of it, and got the phone call. Well, you need to come back here. And so obviously, she found some melanoma, and I go, okay, wait a minute. I'm on a podcast tomorrow that deals with cancer, and here I am getting half my face chopped off. No, not really. But it whether it's stage 4 breast cancer or just a skin issue like I had or have, it's cancer's cancer. And mm-hmm. I was asking the doc, and come on, how serious is this whole thing here? And she goes, man, what you have, it gets into your system. It's a fast mover. We got to get it taken care of. So the timing was prophetic, where I come in here with a big bandage dealing with some cancer.
Yeah, you caught it early.
Yeah,
you caught it early.
Yeah. But Katie was wonderful, because it's like, you don't know what you don't know. I mean, obviously I was familiar with the Side Out Foundation. My perception was it was kind of a support network for various entities that are out there, but she filled me in on, you're doing your own research, and you've got dots that are working with you guys, and coming up with some protocols that are innovative and new and exciting and effective, seemingly effective. So I tip of the hat to what the Side Out Foundation is doing and the direction they're going, and the support that's needed. All this stuff costs money, but the impact that the Side Out Foundation is having, both relative to near-term situations providing support, but also long-term, where can we be going in the years to come? It's just, it's exciting stuff. So, if anybody's out there that needs a salesperson, Katie Olasek is the salesperson.
She's good, isn't she? Well, thank you, Jim. I mean, truly, a lot of fun was had by me today. Hopefully for you too. I thank you for taking time and sharing your knowledge and being on, and being so supportive also of the foundation. And
for sure. I, like I said, tip of the hat to the Side Out Foundation and what you guys do. And you definitely have a fan out here in Colorado.
All right. I might have to come out and visit those Rocky Mountains.
Well, yeah, it's been my experience that you and everybody else is coming out.
Oh, yeah, true.
It's getting pretty crowded out here.
Well, you take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Hope you stay strong there and things work out. And also for your sister, we'll see you somewhere on a volleyball.
Down the road.
Yeah, down the road. All right, Jim.
Thank you for listening. Please share your feedback with us at side-out.org.